Hello, and welcome to the list of my least favourite hit songs of 2022. And at risk of being too overly negative, holy fucking shit, 2022 can get in the bin! As a year, 2022 just seemed like the arrival of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, what with the never-ending stream of war, famine, pestilence and death. When my country having 3 prime ministers in a single year is only a mere footnote in the grand scheme of things, you can understand why I'm completely and utterly done with all this. And unfortunately, the music wasn't much better either. Now, when I did my year-end list for 2021, I said that I was worried that I was getting too old for popular music. But with 2022, even the younger music fans were massively underwhelmed with the year's hits, so I can at least comfort myself with the knowledge that it's not just me being a grumpy old fart yelling at clouds. Those of you who regularly follow my channel will know that I recently did year-end videos for 1992, and I would actually go as far as to say that 2022 had a lot in common with that year. I mean, both years were incredibly underwhelming in terms of popular music. Both years saw the charts be incredibly stagnant, and much like 1992 saw an overabundance of crappy covers and crappy remixes of older hits, 2022 saw way too many songs use overly obvious samples. But if it makes anyone feel better, I do think that much like 1992, 2022 seems to me at least like a transitional year in popular music. I mean, over the last few years, we've had trap dominate the charts, and that trend seems to have crashed and burned now, so maybe 2023 will see something new come along and replace it? Or at least I hope so. In terms of my worst list for this year, I don't think there are many songs that were straight up unlistenable, so I apologise in advance if the lower part of this list seems rather nitpicky at times. This is definitely one of those absence of good years, and unlike a lot of music YouTubers who do these kinds of videos, I actually don't think being the least good is worse than being legit bad, and that's a philosophy that I've never been able to understand. Anyway, I think I've whinged for long enough now. The criteria, as always, is anything that debuted in Billboard's year-end list for 2022, or anything that cracked the top 10 anywhere in the world. So let's get on with the show. Oh god, we're only one song in and already I feel like I'm gonna piss people off. Now, before I start, I just want to make clear that I don't completely hate this song. The reason why it's here is more due to a shocking amount of wasted potential in my eyes. Like, I know pop songs are getting shorter these days, but if you're gonna make a short song, can you at least make sure it sounds finished? Like, there's at least a middle 8 and another chorus missing in this song. Lame. And as Todd pointed out in his review of the song, it seems like it's actively trying to court controversy with all the religious imagery to make it seem blasphemous, but in the grand scheme of things, a married guy using a prostitute is pretty low on the scandal hierarchy. I mean, if you want an actually fun and sexy song that's actually blasphemous, off the top of my head, Personal Jesus comes to mind. And that song is almost as old as I am. What's their excuse for whiffing it this badly? Not to mention that I've never liked Sam Smith's tendency to oversing, and in the chorus they do this weird falsetto warble, you know, that bit is just ear poison to me. Look, I genuinely want to get behind a song by 2 non-cis artists, but this really ain't it, chief.
I got 21 reasons why
Now, I don't tend to put a lot of modern house songs in my more recent worst list, despite them spamming our charts for the last few years. Mainly because they're all pretty much indistinguishable to me, so I don't really think it's worth getting upset about it. But I'm gonna make an exception for this piece of crap. The fact that it super lazily samples Destination Calabria is the least of this mess's problems, and it does nothing with said sample other than crank up the volume so loud that the audio waveform is just one giant brick. Great when you use headphones, by the way. Also, the song has the obvious sticking point that it's called 21 Reasons, despite the fact that it only lists a handful in the lyrics. From what I'm told, the song's lyrics were shot out in 2 hours, which, can you tell? I mean, I tend to crank out the bulk of my scripts in a matter of hours, but I tend to brain dump all the stuff I want to say before gradually editing them over the course of several days into something half decent. And I don't just immediately put out whatever scribblings I come up with and call it a finished product. And you want to know the worst part of this song? Those fucking doot-doos. Yeah, those. I can't imagine that Strong Bad would ever approve of this.
Slumming in at number 2 are songs that try to pass off la-las, na-nas, and doot-doos as legit lyrics.
You guys remember the theme to the original Top Gun, right? You know, highway to the danger zone. Remember how kick-ass that song was, right? Why on earth would they make the theme to the sequel this goofy piece of cringe? Where's the excitement? Where's the drive? This doesn't so much pump me up as it does make me give One Republic some major side-eye. Say what you want about the movie itself. I myself haven't watched either Top Gun movie, and I don't have the slightest interest in ever doing so. But I ain't worried as to Danger Zone what On Our Own was to Ghostbusters. Or what that Nod Your Head song was to Men in Black. Are any of these references too old for the kids these days? This song to me is what would be the horrifying result if you got AJR to write Young Folks. And before anyone asks me, I was the one who originally made that joke in Sean's recent ranked video, thank you. And it really doesn't help that this lame attempt at overly chipper millennial pop is being done by a bunch of guys in their 40s. Like, geez, I guess when you're handed bucket loads of cash to commission a song for a major blockbuster, I guess any sense of shame is totally thrown out the window. Danger Zone.
I'm the psycho. I'm the psycho.
Oh, this feels way too easy. Part of me wants to give this some sort of pass because it at least has some ambition and is seemingly obnoxious by design. But nah, obnoxious whether on purpose or by accident is still obnoxious by the end of the day. And there's nothing in this song that makes it enjoyable on any level. The whole song is basically a kind of back and forth between a girl who's been jilted by some fuckboy and the fuckboy responding with, "Hey, this chick is psycho, am I right?" Now, I've actually been in this position myself. I've had an awful ex-boyfriend cheat on me and then harass me for days after breaking up with him and him telling everyone and anyone that I'm a psycho. It's a really frustrating situation to be in, and it's a subject matter that is actually not dead out of the gate. But man oh man, it leans so hard into the melodramatic obnoxiousness that by the end of the song you just want to tell both parties to shut the hell up already. This song feels to me like you're being forced to listen in on the annoying conversation between two chavs screaming at each other in public. And that fucking drop, man, you know, that thing that sonically resembles an autotuned chipmunk being used as a jackhammer? Yeah, that thing might be the second worst drop I've heard all year. And for those of you who are curious as to what the worst drop of 2022 could possibly be, may I present to you a little song called Huge W.
Huge W.
Yeah, I just want to profusely apologize for making all of your ears bleed just now. Sorry.
Green eyes, fried rice, I could cook an egg on you.
Okay, look, I appreciate Harry's willingness to go a bit left field with his solo material. I do like it when pop goes a bit wonky, but this song is just the definition of a failed experiment to me. It's very clear what he's trying to do with this song. He's trying to do a Prince pastiche, and he just does not pull it off at all. But in fairness, Prince was one of those one-of-a-kind talents that would require decades of honing in just to be even half as good as him, but Harry is just not that kind of pop star to me, so why did he even attempt this? I mean, just listen to that willowy head voice he sings in throughout most of the song. It's just painful to listen to. It doesn't sound so much sexy as it does make me wonder why he recorded his vocal take with his nuts trapped in a vice. And we haven't even gotten to the lyrical content yet. Which, in case you can't already tell by now, it's a song using a food as sex metaphor. I really don't understand why some musicians think that this is a remotely good idea. I don't think I've ever seen that metaphor work except maybe in the Love Cats, but even in that song it was a throwaway joke. I mean, if you've ever gotten to see Todd's review of Carry Out, you'll never be able to take the whole food as sex metaphor seriously ever again.
French fries.
What's your name? What's your number?
I can tell you got big, deep energy. It ain't too many niggas that can handle me, but I might.
Yeah, this one's an easy target that is pretty much featured on everyone's worst list for 2022, and for good reason. And before anyone asks, no, this has nothing to do with who produced it, although it certainly doesn't help. No, it's because this song sucks. Now, people have pissed and moaned about songs like WAP or Super Freaky Girl, and you would think that knowing my track record that I would dislike those songs, but actually it's kind of the opposite. I think mainly because Nicki, Cardi and Megan all have bucket loads of charisma, so they actually make those songs fun for me. This is what you get when you try to make an explicit female rap sex song with a B-lister who has zero charisma. Look, I'm really sorry, I know that's gonna sound super mean, but this whole thing just comes across as blatantly bandwagon hopping. More specifically, it's trying to hop on the Doja Cat bandwagon. Now, the really obvious thing to point out is that the song very heavily samples Genius of Love, which was already famously sampled in Mariah Carey's best song, and I really like both those songs, so this whole thing feels like double sacrilege to me. And it also feels pretty jarring that this thing uses this instrumentation for an explicit song about big dicks, considering that both the aforementioned songs were silly love songs. Man, at this rate, we should probably expect that Wing song to be sampled in a song about fisting. Big D energy, more like a common Dr. Luke L, am I right?
She likes it when I pour tequila, cause she knows that we about to.
Oh great, as if Fancy Like wasn't bad enough, now we're getting copycats trying to cash in. This production on a whole just sounds so goddamn miserable. It's more of that awful country with a trap beat shite with the dorkiest acoustic guitar riff on top of some of the worst subwoofer destroying bass I've ever heard that just has no place in a song like this. And in terms of subject matter, the song isn't all that different from Fancy Like, as it's basically him listing off all the little things that his girl likes, including, apparently, that she likes it when he Here in the UK, well, outside of a few obvious exceptions, country music and its ridiculous popularity in the States is basically an easy stick to beat with when we want to make fun of Americans and their taste in music. And shit like this isn't exactly helping to disprove the impression that us Brits have that the entire country music genre is a bad joke, is it?
And leading Broadway girls along.
This is one of those songs where I struggle to talk in specifics about why this song is so bad because, well, just listen to the goddamn thing. Its badness pretty much speaks for itself here. If I wanted to, I could just play more than a 5-second clip to demonstrate why, but I don't want this video to get taken down by the copyright bots, so you're just gonna have to take my word for it. I mean, it's already been long established that with very, very few exceptions, mixing country with hip-hop will just end badly, and this has to be one of the most unlistenable examples that I can think of. I just cannot stand how Morgan's overly processed screech of a voice sounds against this aggressive trap beat. It's like nails on a chalkboard for me. All I'm saying is that when the goddamn American Song Contest does a better country trap song than your actual Billboard hit, maybe you need to rethink, well, everything really.
I'm good, yeah, I'm feeling alright, baby, I'ma have the best fuck.
So, this might sound weird to you, but this song legit makes me angry just thinking about it. And I know some of you are saying, but Kylie, it's just a lame Eiffel 65 sample, how can you get angry about this? Well, all I know is that every single fucking time this song came up on the car radio on the way to get some groceries or in the club with friends or whatever, it without fail always put me in a really sour mood. And yes, I think that it all boils down to the sample at the end of the day. I know some people don't really like the original Blue Dabba Dee, but I personally have too much fond childhood nostalgia attached to it to not enjoy it to this day. So much so that when this lame soulless hack hijacks the main melody for his lame club anthem and cavalierly chucks in a couple of unnecessary F-bombs for good measure, I can just feel a part of my soul painfully die every time I hear it, man. You could argue that there are worse hit songs from this year that use an obvious sample, but this is probably the hit song using an obvious sample that had the least reason to exist for me. But with one exception. And we'll eventually get to it, but now it's time for me to go over the dishonorable mentions.
I've been throw up the sex in
I was actually gonna leave this song off the list entirely. I mean, it does have that luxurious feel to it that I was aiming for, so it's doing something right at least. But then I saw CDTV Productions point out that the chorus is basically unfinished and I changed my mind.
Damn, I knew you were tripping. We could have been superstars. Remember?
Seriously? We're letting this bozo have another hit?
This bitch lie about getting shots, but she's still a stallion. She don't even get the joke, but she's still smiling.
I rate your entire existence a strong 2, Drake.
And I'm just trying to keep my daughters off pole and my sons.
This very easily would have made the list proper if I didn't already have 2 other terrible country songs in there. Comparing the 3, this was the most disposable, as there was only really one awful line that got it on the shortlist anyway. So yeah, consider this my unofficial number 11.
Ain't nobody selling nothing you prove. Something's
Just copy paste what I said about the last one.
She's got everything that I don't have. How could I ever compare with?
Now I know a lot of people like this one, so I'm gonna upset a lot of people here, but I'm sorry. I just find the guitars to be absolutely weak sauce and her voice sounds awful. Like, she sounds more flued up than I am right now. Someone please get her a Lemsip.
Now I'ma set your house on fire. Running back to
For a song as vindictive as it is, the music sure as hell is as bland and nondescript as a blank sheet of white paper.
now. I remember when you called me late.
More insufferably bland shit with the most unlistenable over-singing.
Hold me closer, time to dance.
I'm probably one of the very few people who didn't actually mind the Cold Heart remix, mostly because I'm generally a fan of the stuff PNAU has done, but this thing sure as hell is a train wreck and a half. Sorry, Britney.
Make me feel good, make me feel nice. Give me your love.
This is probably one of the most shameless examples of music thievery that I've ever heard. If you want the full tea, go check out Mode Reviews' Worst of 2022 vid, because I'm not going to explain all that just for a dishonorable mention. If I could distinguish this from the 500 other generic modern house songs, I might have actually given enough of a shit to put it on the list proper. And now, before finally revealing my number one pick, let's have a quick recap of our top 10. In a year that was chock full of lazy sampling, this to me was by far the worst hit song involving a lazy sample out of all of them this year. I've heard some people defend this song, but I'm sorry, this complete and utter mess is just totally unacceptable to me. Obviously, the song being sampled here is Down Under by Men at Work, which is a song that I have a lot of fondness for. Even though it's a pastiche of Aussie stereotypes as opposed to Kiwi ones, I can still claim to come from a land down under technically, so I can't help but enjoy the original. All this song does is slather some overly loud drum and bass over it that just sounds completely out of place with the original tune. Now, I have nothing against drum and bass at all. I think it's actually a really interesting genre, especially when it's the more old school jungle form like Ronnie Size. But this is an aborted experiment that should never have been attempted. Even taking away my personal bias towards the original song, this whole thing just sounds wrong and wonky in a bad way. It's like a YouTube poop had somehow become a genuine hit song. This might seem like an odd choice for number one compared to everyone else who's doing Worst of 2022 videos, but I realised that I had to put this at number one on my list because out of all the hit songs of 2022, this is the one that I would be most happy never hearing ever again. And that feels like a technicality more than anything, but this was a year that didn't exactly give me much to work with. But hey, at least Emo Girl wasn't a hit, so I guess I should count my blessings here. Thank God that's over and done with now. Now, I just want to apologise if my voice sounds a bit funny in this video because I am just recovering from a nasty bout of the flu and I've only just about stopped sounding like a giant nostril, so, yeah. Oh, well. Anyway, next up is going to be the best of 2022 video, and until then, I'll see you around.